All right. Well, hello, my Tampa Architect Group. We are joined today here with Daler from San Paulo, Brazil, who is going to teach us all a little bit about RevOps today. So the inspiration for this session is an industry pattern that has been going on for like a few years, right, Daler? In this field that's called revenue operations, right? So we all know what sales does, we all know what marketing does, and then there's this hybrid flavor called RevOps, okay, which seems to be the master wizard who controls both of those departments, okay? So I like to keep you all on top of the trends, okay, and the latest and greatest technology and tools and plugins and everything that you need in order to be a successful architect. Part of that means learning a little bit more about the product. Part of it means learning a little bit more about apps that are supported in there. I'm looking forward to scheduling a headless session with you all. That upcoming date is going to be on August 13, where we're going to talk about MCP connectors in Salesforce and how we can leverage our AI tools directly within the platform. That's the next big wave and trend that's coming out very shortly next month. And then we'll also have Flowsum Demo Round 2 on August 20th. If you all are familiar with what Flowsum does and everything, that is a DevOps tool within Salesforce. So like I said, I'd like to have you all savvy on what's happening in the job market, as well as the apps and tools that plug into Salesforce. So that way, when you're out there on your interview panels and my rock stars in the Tampa architect world, you have what it takes to succeed. And without further ado, okay, Daler, I want to know all about RevOps, okay, and I want to ensure that when I see a RevOps job posting, I'm not scared to apply for it and I can have an intelligent conversation about it. Let's go, Daler.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I hope we're going to be bringing some good insights. But before I start, I want to remind you that these calls are supposed to be more like very interactive, right? So, yeah, do interrupt me, ask questions, right? That's how we grow professionally, and that's how we nurture our curiosity. So, let me share my screen. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Let me see. Is my screen being shared? Because now I'm not looking at the camera anymore. I need the whole real estate. Oh my gosh. Very good. I see a bunch of windows here.
Thanks so much,
All right.
Daler. We can see the presentation. It looks like a white screen right now.
Yeah, this is more like we're going to take a deep breath, right? And then we're going to start this whole, RCA journey. So, revenue operations. We've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for maybe a few years or several years, right? And little by little, we're going to be we will find more products tailored towards certain things like a financial cloud and RCA and so and so. So I'm going to share some of my experience with the Salesforce based on my role as an architect. I started using CPQ, which was basically providing a quote. We could manage subscriptions in Salesforce. We could manage products and stuff. But it was a good tool as far as providing solutions for the quoting process, but it was not truly meant to be a full solution for revenue. But when it comes to tools that are truly tailored for certain things in Salesforce or certain processes, right? I want to make sure that we have some minimal information as far as revenue operations. Revenue operations is also known as RevOps, is a formal discipline. It emerged about 10 years ago, right? And it's truly meant to align the company goals as far as sales, marketing, and customer success. In many cases, you're going to be able to find other areas such as product, right? So basically, it's truly evolving to a point that we're bringing the whole revenue, including all the departments, all the teams, all the initiatives in one side. And I find myself in the middle of this whole concept with a tool called RCA, Revenue Cloud, right? So, as I mentioned, initially we had CPQ that was providing a quote in Salesforce, and now we have a end-to-end solution to maximize predictability. Truly goes end-to-end from lead to billing. So what is RevOps? These functions were often siloed, right? So let's say, for example, old companies, yeah, we have that person that pushes the button that puts the order in, right? We have this deal desk. We have this person that works with supporting clients and onboarding and so on and so. So now we're talking about concept to bring everything like end-to-end solution to revenue cycle, right? So let me give you one example for your personal life. You walk to a dealership, right? You just bought a new Corolla, right? You're a new client, a new lead, and you're happy with your new Corolla. And 36 months after, you feel like, you know what? Let me get a new car, right? So from the cost perspective, it's always more expensive to get a new client. You already bought the car, you have the car experience, right? So I want to make sure that I'm interacting with you. Hey, Mr. Who, you do for oil change, right? Hey, we have a promotion for new tires. Hey, we're paying $10,000 more on your trade-in. Why don't you buy a new Corolla? So RevOps is not much different than that. In fact, that's truly a good example for our experience in life. But when it comes to B2B, it could be more sophisticated. It could be more complex, but ideally, this is the scenario, right? So, in my example, we're breaking the silos, right? The fact that you bought your Corolla means that you're exposed to certain platforms like email marketing tool, or the tool that they're managing the services, or the tools that they're working with upsell, right? So, the idea here is standardize the processes, data, massive data. We know who you are, when you bought, what you bought, what is needed, right? So you can basically enable consistent decision maker. Why does RevOps matter? You're gonna find smaller companies, right, that may adopt a quoting process, a contract management process, right? Uh, that could be something related to legal. That could be something related to the commitment they have with your products. Maybe your product needs calibration, right? So you have to keep engaging with your clients. But the whole thing here is we are eliminating the disconnected system and metrics, right? So company-wide, the goal is, it doesn't matter if you're large or if you're small, we want to make sure that we're talking about the same language when it comes to forecasting, when it comes to revenue, when it comes to, like the numbers that truly matter for the company. So let's say, for example, if I'm talking to somebody from the customer success, they understand our company goals from the RevOps perspective. If I'm talking to the product team, likewise. So basically, we're driving operational efficiencies within the company. And finally, creating a single source of truth. And that's very CRM. Remember, lead, and we have all the contact information, we have campaigns, and et cetera, et cetera. The RevOps basically enforces that, because in real world, every time you have multiple data sources, every time you find gaps between systems, it's not efficient. You're gonna be spending more money, and more importantly, the users may lose the confidence in your system, right? So when it comes to the RevOps in place, it's basically enforcing these processes within the platforms they have available. So now, when it comes to a system architect, your perspective, right? It's not much different than in CRM. We're basically providing an end-to-end life cycle solution, right? If you're doing this for a sales process, that's not much different than what you do for RCA. When it comes to product data, right? It's a little bit different than what you guys may have seen in your career, because now we're talking about not just quotes and selling things and closing one opportunities. You're creating a life cycle. You're creating a scenario that, let's say, for example, some of the clients reported that they need X, Y, and Z features in your product, right? You have a 360-degree view within Salesforce. So you can bring insights and build better products. There might be something related to pricing, you name it, right? So it brings another perspective in terms of how we're managing your initiatives company-wide. It could be truly driving your strategy, or the way that you're building data within this whole cycle. If you're selling something, you have to have that something. In order to service your products, you have to have information about your products, and so and so. Integrations. Remember, you have to sell, you have to build, you have to get paid, right? So Salesforce natively never truly offered a billing solution before actually the revenue cycle, which was the predecessor from RCA. I'm not sure if I can say this, but those products were very similar in the past when the RCA came to play. But the idea here is, imagine that there are other players in the market that offers like billing solution, right? And Salesforce was not quite there yet. And finally, flexibility for subscriptions and complex deals. And this is more like on the business B2B side, but I want to bring your life experience to play. And I'll give you one example, right? Let's say like Netflix or Amazon Prime. You might be paying month a month for a certain service, right? It's a sort of these deals never end. The contract never ends. It's basically a cycle where you pay more and more for the services, right? And this became the reality for many companies that they're offering instead of selling their products in one shot. You're basically paying monthly for the subscription. It could be more profitable down the road. Now let's talk about RCA specifically, right? As I mentioned, based on my experience, I came from CPQ. It was a package, it was a coding system in Salesforce that was leveraging some of the features in Salesforce, and that had its own, again, it's a package, it's an a application. Now the RCA offers like a end-to-end revenue lifecycle in a single platform, meaning all the tools available for the rest of the CRM. It's also available to RCA without truly having a connector or anything like this. It's not truly a package. It's a solution built in Salesforce that it's enabled with the specific licenses, right? So you don't have to worry about synchronization failures and so and so. The CPQ part is way more complex now, and it offers much flexibility compared to the predecessor, right? So let's say, for example, we have a native way to manage contracts, order. There's a billing orchestration that are features that were never available before. It supports subscriptions, usability in hybrid modes. Funny example, let's say if you want to sell a kilo or a pound of something, RCA also offers that. And finally, when it comes to scalability, compliance, and flexibility, it doesn't matter the company size. You can truly build and adjust according to what you have in mind, what is truly needed for your company in order for you to grow your business. So this is our revenue cloud, right? We're starting with a product catalog, right? We're managing the price. After that, we're basically building the deals in Salesforce. We are using some of the existing architecture in the Sales Cloud. I'm sorry. When we're converting, let's say, for example, you're creating a quote, you're automatically leveraging a opportunity, right? So you're feeding that existing opportunity record with products, quantities, pricing, right? Within CPQ, you can leverage a approval process. Let's say, for example, if you need approval from a manager because of a level of discount, this is one of the things that you can use in Salesforce. And finally, you have a business proposal, right? So you're submitting that to your client. Hopefully your client will buy. We're talking about the contractual obligation within that offer they had, right? So very good. We have a contract in place. We are creating an order upon a closed won opportunity, right? You can work on the fulfillment. You can basically take any action related to the, let's say, maybe your product is basically built to suit, or you have like you're ordering this from a warehouse, you name it, right? So that's basically when you're preparing the fulfillment. Finally, once you have your product properly delivered, right, you have assets. Remember in my example, the Corolla, like, yeah, I mean, I know that that product will require some services. I know that you're going to have to go back for oil change. So I have the VIN number. I have the asset number. Maybe there's a software update, right? That I'll have to contact you and say, hey, look, there's a software update. It's going to cost you $10,000. And yeah, that's how we operate. And we're going to basically repeat the same cycle again. You're going to go back to my product catalog and let's say a upgrade for your asset. Or let's say if your asset it's eligible for a upgrade after a certain amount of time, right? I can basically keep track of that, right? I can amend your contract. And finally, again, bring more revenue out of the deal that I created in the past, in the traditional sales model, lead, contact, and so and so. Finally, the billing. In the past, it was very common using other platforms like NetSuite just for billing, right? So now Salesforce offers that. The beautiful things that are also available in the Revenue Cloud, e-commerce, right? Comparing to other competitors in the market right now, it's not very common offering a e-commerce solution that natively integrates with the Salesforce. I dare to say that I don't think that there are any, right? Channel side, likewise, you have like partners, like distributors and resellers that they can do self-service without impacting the customer experience, right? So they can basically go directly in Salesforce and create that quote, for example, in the channel side. So in the real world, right? I know it's a powerful platform. I know that there's a lot that we can do that, but what's in the real world? Well, I just joined this company and they have the appetite for implementing a CPQ solution. I just joined this company and they never had anything in place. They have a bunch of Excel sheets, right? I just joined this company and they have a perfect system. They're trying to save money. Every company will be different. Every initiative will be different. The key ingredient, in my opinion, is data, right? Regardless. If you have a company that is currently leveraging CPQ and they were communicated that it's end of sale for CPQ, they don't want to wait until the very last minute before they upgrade to Revenue Cloud. There are several steps that you're going to have to take to complete this migration. Did I say the word migration? Well, I mean, it's not truly a migration. It's a business transformation, in my opinion. It's an opportunity for you to revisit the sales process, to revisit the product management process, and truly understand how we can set up the platform in a manner that it's scalable, in a manner that you can truly fix any underlying issue that they potentially might be experienced with the CPQ. And when I say CPQ, I'm not just talking about Salesforce CPQ. I'm talking about any go-to-cash solution that they may have in place, right? So I would never say, hey, let's migrate. Well, I don't think that we migrate. There's no lift and shift. At least I've never seen a lift and shift. There are platforms in the market that will facilitate that indeed. But again, it depends on the company size. It depends on the number of users. It depends on many other things. So it's hard to truly say, oh, it's easy. It's doable. And it takes time. It takes effort, right? But ultimately, from that point onwards, you're driving scalability as your company grow, as you bring more complexity to the to the business, right? You want to be in the position that you're a architect that enables scalable process. And finally, every change will basically introduce new business challenges, right? So let's say this company, they've been doing quotes using the Excel sheet, right? So very good. They want to choose a platform like RCA. They want to move forward with the contract management process, right? Sometimes they don't have an end-to-end solution in place. You may have to either elect a solution from Salesforce or find a partner that it's financially compatible with what their goals are, right? So you're going to have to introduce a bunch of processes that were never there before. Includes enablement, right? You're going to have to train these users, right? You may find users that are truly reluctant to change the process. You may find issues with the data. You may find problems that are not easy to solve until you say, look, I mean, I need my partners in place. I have to basically interview a bunch of people involved in the process. And I may, as an architect, I'm going to have to say, look, I mean, I have to make suggestions from the business perspective before we truly commit with with the implementation of the Revenue Cloud. So what actually changed? In my example, right, let's say they have Excel. They're going from manual to automated process. You're going to have to standardize data. When it comes to standardized data, you may have to engage with other business, right, with other units. It's more like a company-wide communication. We're coming from a customer-centric operation into a revenue-centric operation. Let's say, Little John, they like that page layout. There's a bunch of fields that he's the only person he's the only person willing to understand, or but now we're creating a process that's truly revenue centric. It's agnostic to people per se, right? It's a framework that it's in place, and you're expecting people to work out of that, right? When it comes to processes, right, in pricing, now you have product releases. You're gonna have pricing management. You may have to take additional steps in terms of moving things from X into Salesforce. The technology, in this case, I'm truly talking about the revenue platform, right? And finally, it's a cross-functional initiative. Every time you're touching the billing process, you cannot simply work siloed with the sales. You're going to have to engage with the finance and potentially other teams related to this. So again, going back to the what we discussed initially, it's RevOps. We're not talking about sales anymore. We're talking about a initiative that should happen within the firm. We're no longer talking about Salesforce as Salesforce. We're talking about a concept that involves other platforms that will basically drive the behavior from end to end. The architect's role, not much different than what we do in Salesforce every day. But in my opinion, you have to basically educate yourself and understand what RevOps is first. You have to be more involved in terms of how the company has been working with their internal initiatives. You have to know people, right? This is not truly that you can take as an order taker. You have to truly understand what needs to be done. There's compliance. There are several things that maybe were not there when you're creating a lead conversion process, for example. So I'm not saying from the sophistication standpoint, but again, I'm talking about the business transformation. It's very easy to comprehend what the tool can do, right? But it's pretty hard to understand how you can leverage the tool to take the most out of the implementation that you're designing. So why Salesforce Revenue Cloud Advanced? Well, we're going to compare with CPQ, right? It's a advanced pricing engine, right? Non-sophisticated CPQ tools may provide you wrong pricing. Or let's say, for example, you have a cell phone and you're selling a extended warranty, right? And the extended warranty is basically a percent of your price, right? So non-sophisticated tools may offer some challenge performing those types of calculation. In Revenue Cloud, you have a bunch of solutions that are built in either in flows, or it can be super creative in terms of creating the solutions for for pricing. And again, it's no longer a package. It's a solution that runs in Salesforce. In terms of performance, it's very, very strong. So you don't see those error messages very often, so which is a good thing. Unified product catalog. Going back to the business transformation, right? Oh yeah, we have this 150 SKUs that are the same product from the shelf. One is a 1-year subscription, the other is 2-year subscription, the other is 3-year subscription, so and so, right? So you can go back to the business and say, look, same product from the shelf, right? Let's slice and dice and create a pricing logic in place that is truly leveraging the subscription, the terms, right? As opposed to creating specific skills unnecessary just because they don't match with what we're providing in the quote. Again, it's a native quote, word, or contract life cycle. You can control everything from end to end when it comes to managing subscriptions, right? Let's say you just sold like a large contract, $10,000. The customer comes back like 3 days later. Look, I mean, we love your product, right? We want to amend. Fine, no problem. We can upsell. Oh, you know what? I don't think that we choose the right application. We may have to return some of the products, right? But not all of them. And we may have to choose other solutions. Likewise, you can manage that in Salesforce. What else can I tell you? Composable revenue architecture. You can combine different types of services or solutions within the same quote. You can manage subscriptions individually. There are many things that you can do. For example, let's say if you have like a piece of hardware that it's a one-time charge, right? and then you're providing service in a contract that will last 5 years. So you can truly slice and dice how the revenue will be landing in the platform. You can report all the numbers accurately. That's just one example. There are many others. What it takes, that's the hard part. As I mentioned, we're not talking about it is not a migration, it's a business transformation. You're going to have to talk to people, you're going to have to understand processes, you're going to have to bring alignment, right? Data and product governance, important for you. There might be other implications, compliance, right? You're often going to find organizations that they never truly had like a system admin helping. You have like many people touching in data, and you're gonna see like a bunch of scenarios where a lot of people were just touching Salesforce and create like a big mess, right? So you don't want to install RCA on top of something that it's currently not working. So at least you have to understand if the sales process is tight enough in order for you to move forward, or else you're gonna have to go back and say, look, we have to adjust some bolts, and we're not quite ready for RCA. Technology integration. Despite the fact that Salesforce offers an end-to-end solution on the Revenue Cloud, some companies may choose to keep some of what they have in place. And likewise, you're not forced to use all the solutions from Salesforce, but you have to understand exactly what you are integrating and how you're integrating, which is not much different than what you do in the other, like in the Sales Cloud, for example, right? But likewise, you're involving products, you're creating new processes, right? So you don't want to do this blindly, assuming that everything will work. Organizational change. Well, you're automating things. You're going to come back to your project manager and say, look, I have this person pushing orders manually, updating pricing manually. I suggest that we should automate this process for several reasons, right? So you may have to deal with a human, or you may have to basically be very specific in terms of how you're suggesting those changes, right? Executive sponsorship, not much different than what we do with the other clouds in Salesforce. But I think that this is the key here, the technology that enables transformation, right? It has to be sustainable, it has to be scalable, it has to be accurate. And that's why you're going to be investing a lot of time to work with RCA, understand the process, understand what the company is trying to do, right? And take the most of the platform. Any questions? I'll stop sharing for a minute so I can see your faces now. No question. Go home. I'm gonna go home. Thank you.
Stop it. Noah just posted. Give him a second to type here, Daler. Okay. So Noah asked, would you be able to speak to how hefty the lift will be to migrate Salesforce CPQ and billing to RCA? I love that question. I actually had something like that in an interview question about like, what are the risks in doing a CPQ migration over to full RCA? So yes, Daler, I would love to hear how you would answer that, especially in the context of an interview.
I will give you the short answer first so we can level set, and I'll give you the long answer after. So as any other database, it's data, flat data with all the relationship, right? With its historical data. So imagine that the data you have in the system right now let's assume that it's bringing historical data, right? You have legacy products, you have old opportunities, you have a bunch of stuff sitting in the system that you cannot simply move from point A to point B without knowing what you're doing. But then you're installing another platform on top of it that changes the business process. You're going to find misalignment in terms of the legacy data and the future of the data. But you're going to find active opportunities that the users are still leveraging the old data. Meaning, a project has been discontinued. Fine, no problem. But we do have active contracts in Salesforce right now, due for renewal in 3 years. And the CPQ part will be gone, and now we have the CPQ from RCA. So data mapping, that's one of the most important things. You have to have the proper map in place, my opinion, you have to negotiate with your business users and say, look, why do we need an opportunity from 1991? Is that truly relevant to this exercise? Why don't we keep it quiet and truly migrate only what it's pertinent to the business today, right? So that will be basically that's the main thing as far as migrating data. But it can be very, very interesting when it comes to compliance, for example. There might be requirements that will force you to keep the data as is, right? Or you may have some flexibility in terms of migrating that data to X, but it's not fully readily available to your users, right? So it's a constant negotiation. Ready for the long answer now? In CPQ, you have a bunch of objects, right? Everything is basically detached from each other, right? And there's a lot of lookup relationships in the database. So imagine a quote, a opportunity, a product, a price, a term, a product feature, right? It's very, very hard to disassemble that data and move that into a different repository, either RCA or whatever solution you may choose for the future state of your coding process. Again, we're not talking about 1 year, 2 years. Some companies, they've been using CPQ since it still breaks. So we're talking about like a decade worth of data, right? And yes, it can be very complicated migrating that data. And again, imagine you cannot simply say, company, let's stop doing business this month because it's my turn to move from CPQ to RCA. You have to keep business continuity. You have to be very smart in terms of how you decide in that and what you're suggesting to your client, right? So I think that this is the sort of a long answer. Every company will be different. Every group of user will be different.
What an eloquent answer, Daler. Thank you so much. I didn't see any other CPQ questions in the chat, but Noah, we are here for therapy if you need it anymore. So I just see over the chat, he goes, yep, that's us. So maybe he had some challenges in the CPQ to RCA migration. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come off mute if you wish. I did see another question in the chat from Miha, and he's asking for career advice about getting into Marketing Cloud and Data Cloud. So Daler, if it's all right, I'll take this one. Miha, you asked the right person. So I have managed to make a career for myself in both over the past 3 years. So I will tell you this, Marketing Cloud, that system will make you cry when you first start. It is like, it is one heck of a Frankenstein product that Salesforce bought from ExactTarget eons ago. I mean, this was way back over in, oh my God, 2011, back in the day. And so it still has some of that, legacy architecture and everything. But it's an awesome engine, and it continues to run and power emails, globally in the petabytes. So, okay. We've got Marketing Cloud. A lot of jobs out there right now are targeted for people with an overlapping experience between Marketing Cloud and Data Cloud. Okay, so Marketing Cloud Engagement and Data 360. Those are the new terms in the community that we want to try to get everybody to use. Those two are tightly coupled together just because Marketing Cloud Engagement, ExactTarget, it was heavily based on SQL and automations, and you had to have some developer backbone in order to run that tool successfully. And Data 360 is Salesforce's customer data platform, or CDP, answer in order to unify all of the data that was in your Marketing Cloud platform and make it easier to segment for marketing directors. So that way marketing director can just point and click in that pretty segmentation builder that we see demonstrated in the sales pitches. Okay, great. So if you're trying to get into it and you want to make yourself a career out of Marketing Cloud Engagement and Data 360, it's a great space to be in. I get job offers all the time in LinkedIn. If everybody has some of that overlapping experience and you're looking for a change, please send me a DM, as I'd be more than happy to connect you with a recruiter. But I will tell you that learning curve is very, very steep. There are some very good community resources out there. and I will put them, or actually, I'll put them in the chat. And if you're curious for more advice, you're more than welcome to send it to me. But depending on your experience, it's a very steep learning curve, very steep. Data 360 is great, but aside from Marketing Cloud engagement, you also have to have some data warehousing experience. So you have to know enough about how a client might use external systems and have them all in one data lake, like Snowflake, for example, in one data warehouse, and how you would negotiate some of those conversations in order to build out curated tables that Data 360 can then ingest. So you want to prepare yourself, okay, take stepping stones in an organization where first, okay, because you're asking me, all right, how can one learn Data 360 from scratch by their own? I wouldn't even start with Data 360. Honestly, I would start working where you have exposure to Snowflake, Azure, or Amazon Web Services. Have an exposure to that databasing team first. And then I would approach a Data 360 implementation so that you understand how data gets transformed in a team from raw to transform to landing tables that would eventually pipe into Data 360. So it's possible, but learning from scratch on your own, that sounds hard. That sounds very hard. I'm lucky in that I work for a Salesforce partner. So there's a difference between coming from, a Salesforce customer versus a Salesforce partner. When you work for a partner, you get this whole extra learning camp out there called the partner learning camp, which is like extra training and extra enablement sessions and office hours and things like that you don't get as a regular customer. So especially if you're on the customer side of it, learning Data 360 on your own would be quite the challenge. But yeah. So
Brittany, I think if you allow me to say, you also came from a university, you owned a org into consulting, right? That changed a lot. Let's say once you have your hands on it, you understanding exactly what it's needed for your company, as opposed to having like a broad knowledge within the platform. They can you can basically provide some advice in basically any scenario that you may think about, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, like Data 360, it's not that hard to do the maps. It's challenging to find the right good examples to follow, especially if you're in an org that does person accounts, okay? So all of the data kits and everything that go along with Data 360, those do not work well, in my opinion, for person accounts. You have to build all the maps out from scratch. But if you have an easy org like that's using traditional like B2B sales, you can get away with the data kits. You'll be okay. You can fly right through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Daler, I mean, you can confirm this, but person accounts is pretty standard, like in the financial services industry. So,
I want to make an interesting comment. Again, when Salesforce sees a sort of a silo, right? Hey, this finance world, this insurance things, right? So they starting building solutions that are truly meant for certain industries, right? And well, with person accounts, years and years and years ago, it was something that you should enable in your org, and you basically lose some of the capacity in terms of using the traditional account contact model in Salesforce. So when it comes to becoming a product expert, right? I think this is one of the nuances they have to observe. I don't want to say follow the leader, but if Salesforce did something, maybe they did for a reason, right? So instead of building your own stuff, try to understand the products that they have in place and see if this is truly suitable for your application. I'm not saying, yeah, call the rep and buy. What I'm trying to say is maybe they have a solution in place. And it's just a matter of understanding what it's pre-built by Salesforce and try to promote that, try to analyze, make sure it checks all the boxes for your company, as opposed to, yeah, I mean, let me build everything from scratch. Sometimes that's not the best option. Even though you were in Salesforce, maybe that's not the best option.
Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm seeing some chatter in the community. All right, I think what needs to happen. All right, tell you what, couple things going on. So let's see here. Can I get some hands or something in the chat? Have you all heard the term headless yet? This is kind of what's coming up next. Does anyone know what headless means? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Does anyone know how to use headless, or does it sound scary? Okay. Scary goblins. Oh, scary. I love it. Okay, very good. Yes. Okay. So what we are going to host is a headless enablement session. So there is a wave of community group leaders that are participating in the headless, they're calling it headless tour, just like how they did that Agentforce tour. And I want you all to ensure that you are registered and signed up for this, because they're giving the community leaders orgs, like those nice demo training orgs for everybody to use through the end of August. Okay, so you're going to sign up for this session on August 13th. Come hang out with me. It's from noon to 1:30, so same time. And we're going to walk through how to set up an MCP connector. Okay, don't be scared. I'll walk you all through it step by step. But I want to ensure that you all have a clue about this and know what this means, okay? Because headless, this is going to be the next big thing, okay? And just like how Data 360 was a big deal, just like how Agentforce was a big deal, having a clue about how headless connects to Data 360 and MCP servers, yes, all the goodies that make the magic happen, Shefali, yes, you need to learn how to do this, okay? And I know there's been like a lot of learning curves lately, and that's okay. We're all hanging in there together, but we can do this. So sign up for Headless 360. Based on the chatter that I'm seeing in the community, it sounds like there's some interest breaking into the Data 360 job market. So I can tell you all how I did it and how I would get started from the customer side, from the consultant side, and get that scheduled later on this year. Does that sound good to everybody?
Definitely. I just registered.
My favorite. Beautiful. Okay. Well, then we are in good shape for the day. Also for Blue Gator, okay, I appreciate you all coming. If you are based in the US, we are hiring for a Salesforce nonprofit cloud consultant. So if anyone's looking for a change, feel free to send me a DM on LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to put you in front of the hiring managers. I need somebody with solid nonprofit cloud experience. If you've got marketing experience, that helps too. And then I do have a lot of recruiters asking me for Data 360 candidates. So if anyone has some experience existing, great. Otherwise, I think that we are all set here. There are no other questions. Please send the link. Shefali, just go ahead and send me a DM. Send me a DM on LinkedIn so that way I know you want to do it. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Daler.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.